This is Baseline, a podcast about baseball by people who know nothing about baseball. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Andrew, and we know nothing about baseball. We did watch baseball, though.
Yeah, we know enough to actually flip on the tube, the ye olde tube machine, and watch a game. I guess it's not a tube anymore, right? It's like it's
not
a bunch
strictly
of
speaking, no.
Liquid crystals and
Right.
whatever those do.
Turn on the old crystal, the old OLED. No, I don't have an OLED. I wish I did. But
Okay, Crystal, turn on MLB. Close enough. So we did watch a bunch of games. I did, at least.
Well, we listened to, we mentioned in the previous episode that there was going to be a game between our two teams, but that one was audio only. But I did listen to, I think, pretty much all of it.
Okay. All right.
Got maybe to like the top of the ninth, and I was like ready to eat dinner. So I was like, okay, I'll switch it off now. But
all right. So by top of the ninth, you mean the first time that someone comes up to bat in what would be known as the ninth inning.
Correct. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
See, I know baseball.
Right. And depending on where they are playing, where your team is playing, the top of the ninth could be when your team is up and batting, or it could be when your team is fielding.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, that is, I guess it kind of depends. If you're playing not at home field, there is still going to be the home field for one team. Like, say you play in Japan,
right,
and you've got two American teams.
One team is considered the home team,
right? Yes, but in this case, let's say that for your game specifically, I believe they were playing at Giants Stadium. That's a big question mark for me.
Yes, they were.
So if that's the case, the Reds would have come up to bat first, and the Giants would have been fielding. Typically, the home team, the one whose stadium or field that you are at, is going to be the one who bats last. That's a pretty easy way of kind of telling, okay, it's the top of the ninth. They must be in San Francisco instead of being in Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
Well, really interesting. So we signed up last show for MLB At Bat, the application, and you've been using that to listen to the games because you don't get the station locally, I assume.
Right. Yeah. So I listened to the audio only stream through the app. It worked pretty well. Worked in my car even, which was nice. So apparently it has a CarPlay app, turns out.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Does it, I assume...
It doesn't do much. It's just like a play-pause kind of thing. But
sure,
it's
there. It's not going to be a live feed of the game being played in your car.
Well, it'd be nice if it showed like the little, the base positions and whether they were, and maybe the count. But that would be distracting.
Yeah, so you're saying it'd be basically like our album artwork, our show artwork for this show.
Yeah, exactly.
But with a live feed of what's actually happening on the field. I mean, that would be cool. It would be neat to see sort of like the pitch position as well. But again, like that sounds so distracting. Even the score to me kind of seems distracting. But I think what I've seen from MLB At Bat is in the past, they will actually include the score in whatever payload is being sent through Bluetooth. And so even if you don't have CarPlay plugged in or whatever, through Bluetooth, the song title or the album title will say like Giants 3 - Reds 2, so that you can at least kind of follow along with the score. Yeah, it is pretty neat. That way, kind of like the not smart head units on a car can get enough information to, as you turn on, I guess, a game, let's say it's already in progress, and the announcer, the person actually calling the game, hasn't said what the score is, you can just glance over there and you can see it. I guess if you're a passenger too, it's not that big a deal. Well, okay, all right. And you, I guess, listened to the home broadcast.
I did.
Did you bounce in between broadcasts? Because you do have that option on that
No,
app.
I didn't. I stuck mostly with the local Cincinnati broadcast.
Okay, all right. Did you happen now? That happened Tuesday, I think, I want to say, of last week.
Yeah.
Did you happen to catch the game on, I think it was Friday? It was a televised game of the Reds Giants playing each other yet again, because that tends to happen in spring training quite a bit. Do you catch any of that game?
I did not catch it at the time, but I did watch it, a little bit of it a couple days later, because the MLB TV app gives me that option.
Right. Yes, it's pretty convenient too. It'll list them as like archive in the app, and so you can, I guess, tap between days. It shows you one day at a time. It would be kind of nice if you could just kind of back up and see a calendar view of your team specifically, but it's got every single team in there.
When it shows you all of the games, and I kind of wish, because you can tell it that like I care about the Reds, and it'd be nice if it just really showed you only the Reds games, just to make it easy, but I don't know. Anyway,
I mean, it's not like we're users or anything. It's not. But I think it would be pretty beneficial if that's the case. I think what it does do, however, is prioritize it and put it at the top. So at least your team is sitting at the top for all of those different screens. And that makes it pretty convenient. Well, and I think as a baseball, fair. As a baseball fan, there are going to be folks who want to, like, oh, the Reds aren't playing right now, so let's go over to the Yankees broadcast and see how that's going.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then for the game that you did catch, I guess, a little bit of in the archive, you were actually forced to watch the broadcast of my team, the San Francisco Giants televised broadcast. And so you got to actually, from that whole, like, straight up into the intro, which I guess topical news, the Giants CEO is in trouble, real trouble currently. This is probably going to be out of date information by the time that this comes out, but go look that up.
But as we record, he is in some stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. The video is terrible.
He done bad. He done real bad, folks. He really boogered it up.
Yes. Yeah. I would say that's just like, you cannot understate that enough. Whatever you would say about that is not understating it, is not overstating it enough. Whatever it is, it's real bad.
Yeah.
But they made a mention of it at the top, and then they got straight into it, and you kind of got to see on television what these folks look like. Mm-hmm. They're old. They're real old.
The broadcasters,
yeah. John Miller and Mike Krukow are the ones doing this game, calling this game, and they are.
Are they the same folks as do the radio announcing?
So it depends. Dwayne Kuiper and Mike Krukow typically do the TV announcing, and John Miller, who is the one on the left, and Dave Fleming are the ones who do the radio broadcast, and sometimes they'll flip. If the game is on NBC proper, like the actual local over-the-air channel, they will pull John Miller in for those. Or if it's on ESPN, he'll do those games too. But if it is just sort of like a regular day game, they're going to stick with that crew where the two are on the TV broadcast and the two are on the radio broadcast. The neat part, though, is that you can sometimes, depending on the game, and if there's only one person working radio at the time, every 3 innings, they will switch and roll someone in from the TV broadcast over into the radio broadcast. So they're kind of flexible. They'll switch around. But that's what, I mean, they have very, very, very distinct voices in baseball. And for sure, I would probably say John Miller's going to be in the Hall of Fame if he isn't already. That's probably my bad if he is, but I could probably see the rest of the Giants commentators being put into the Hall of Fame as well. It's just they have become definitely the voice of that team over the last 20 years or so, and it'll be a really weird day when that changes over. But Dave Fleming especially is sort of a Bay Area icon, I guess. He does all of the Stanford games, a whole bunch of, I believe, football and basketball games. He'll slot in sometimes to the March Madness stuff for ESPN. Just sort of like a overall radio guy. So, what did you think? I guess just a sort of temperature of the room on that television broadcast, and definitely how different was it from what you're used to seeing?
I liked it. It was better than I remembered, to be honest. I honestly didn't really notice that it was like the San Francisco Giants broadcast, except when the commercials came on and they were for Bay Area related things. But that was really the only thing that sort of gave it away.
Yeah, that's right. I always forget that they do sort of the local TV stuff on there. It's not, I mean, they used to, depending on where you watch it, they used to slot their own commercials in. You would see sort of like the MLB banner shows up, then they'll put in some kind of targeted advertising. I don't think it's like they're going to show you, go to your local Honda dealership, and that's going to be like in your backyard Honda dealership,
but like
where
dynamically
you're
inserted stuff anyway.
It used to, at least, and I don't know if that's changed at all. I know it absolutely. Yeah. It doesn't do that for radio, for sure. But it does maybe sometimes do that for the TV broadcasts. It may change throughout the year. I don't know.
No, but I liked it. It was entertaining. I think I followed it pretty well.
Of course, it's entertaining when your player's like second pitch hitting a home run in the first inning. I'm sure that's real entertaining.
I mean, yeah. No, but the thing that I was sort of impressed with myself about is that I was relatively good at like watching the pitch and then thinking like, oh, that's a ball or that's a strike. And I was pretty good at telling which was which. Some are I mean, some are incredibly obvious, right? So, but others are not. And I'm like, I bet that's a ball.
Were you watching on your phone or the TV? What was sort of your
I was watching on my phone at that point.
Okay. So, I mean, even then, the strike zone's pretty small. It's like a postage stamp, or smaller.
Right.
Okay. I mean, that's pretty good. What's nice about MLB.TV or MLB at Bat as well is that they broadcast at 60 frames per second for most of those games. And so you do get to kind of see like, okay, that ball's going 99 miles an hour, but it came to the strike zone and the catcher caught it where he did. And you can kind of discern if it was a ball or a strike. Mm-hmm. They also do overlays on the app. So like if you want to see what the current box score is, you can swipe up from the bottom and get that.
I don't think I knew that.
And then from the top, it'll show the league scores for whatever's going on right now.
But it was good. Yeah, I enjoyed it more than I kind of expected to. And even just watching it, I was thinking like, it would be fun for me to play, like a pickup baseball game with some friends or whatever. I would be totally terrible at it, but it would be enjoyable. I kind of, like I said, I have played baseball a little bit as a kid, and I do kind of miss it, thinking about it, because it takes some skill to hit a ball that's coming at your face with a bat and get it to go flying. So it's satisfying when you do that and don't just miss it entirely. So
yeah, no. I mean, I get that. I guess I can diverge into a little bit of a story for me right now. I played kickball last week with my company's team, and they invited me out, and it's basically like baseball, but you kick the ball instead of hitting it. With
less equipment,
big old rubbery ball. Yeah, a lot less equipment. I was still wearing my like jeans that I had worn at work that day. I mean, I flew out. I was across the country,
right?
And I did not have anything with me. So there I am, like in my work attire, kicking a big old kickball and running across the field and stuff.
Just dressed up in all the catcher's pads.
I should. Yeah, no catcher pads. Thankfully,
dressed up like a hockey goalie. I'm ready.
It sort of felt that way. Yeah. But what it did teach me, though, is that there are so many really small rules-based parts of baseball that it definitely needs to be something you play or try so that it gets ingrained as memory for you and sort of like, becomes this thing that is second nature to you, because I know most of the rules of baseball, but going out there and actually playing was something completely different. Like, I know I'm on first, not to run right away when the ball is hit if it is less than 2 outs, because if the ball is caught, I need to still be on a bag and tag up. Like, those are the kinds of things you're making very, very, very small decisions when it comes to that stuff, and you're not making like real big strategic ones.
Right.
But just trying to remember that, okay, if it's 1 out, do this. If it's no outs, do this. If it's 2 outs, then it changes the scenario for you. And I think playing a game like kickball can do it. And so highly recommended if you haven't, I guess, played baseball before, and I guess maybe haven't learned the rules of it. An event like that is a really good way to just sort of trial by fire learn it, because if you run and it's 1 out and you catch it and they throw it back to first, you're going to learn the next time, oh, okay, that's why that happened. Just gets you into the right mindset, I think, for baseball. But yeah, definitely in agreement. Playing will get you there.
And then listening to the broadcast, that was with, the game that I listened to on the radio, that was with Marty Brenneman and Jeff Brantley. And that was entertaining, especially to hear Marty Brenneman again. And, their banter and so on. And then they did, the first handful of innings they sort of did together, and then they would like trade off an inning. But one thing that was funny is that they were calling the game at one point, and then they just sort of stopped abruptly. And then they came in 30 seconds later, and they were like, sorry, folks, Pete Rose just popped his head in.
We had to dump out.
Right. So we told him to come back later. There's a lot. I guess if you don't know a whole lot about baseball and the history of baseball, that can mean many things. Pete Rose was a very prolific, if I can say so, baseball player for the Cincinnati Reds. He also had a whole bunch of other stuff around him that was somewhat baseball adjacent, but also not baseball adjacent happen, and has since been banned from Major League Baseball. So it's a whole thing. I think that's definitely one topic we'll have to get into later in the season or in the off season as stuff sort of winds down. His story arc is quite interesting.
Pretty incredible. But I would actually love, like, that little microcosm of what happened there is very interesting, especially when you're listening to a radio broadcast as well for spring training. The ones that the Giants put on right now are only on MLB.com and SFGiants.com. They're not actually going through over-the-air broadcasts.
Right.
And what makes it very strange is that there are no commercials. They go from like calling the game, and then it used to actually not go silent. It used to just play the organ music that was in the stadium, and the mics would just get turned off, and you would just hear like in the background. Now they actually flip the mics off and flip everything off, so it's just completely silent during the break, if you would, like in between innings or while they're switching sides. And it's a completely different experience from what you'll hear on the radio, because you don't hear any of the local car dealership, come today and choose your bespoke wooden car here at San Francisco Bespoke Wooden Car Dealership. And I'm just totally not used to it. But it's nice. It's kind of like a podcast in that weird way. I'm actually holding a baseball right now as well.
All right.
It's speaking of which, though, that is something that I watched Mike Krukow do, who was one of the people who called the game that I watched on TV, that you watched on TV as well. But he would always be in the broadcast booth holding a baseball because he's a former pitcher. And that's one of those things that I have kind of mixed feelings about. I don't know if former players really make for great broadcasters. John Miller is not a former player, and neither is Dave Fleming, but both Mike Krukow and Dwayne Kuiper are former players, and they bring this sort of like different vibe to a broadcast that is more about predictability and knowing what's coming next and trying to give that knowledge to the people watching. There were a few affectations as well that I was wondering if you were going to mention about the Giants broadcast specifically. As they were introducing players, Mike Krukow will say, although he'll go around the diamond, he'll name the position players in a certain order, usually. He'll say like, and also the position players are numbered. That's a whole other thing that we'll probably get to eventually, because in official scoring, you'll say like a 6-4-3 double play, or, you know, things like that, which means it went from one player to another player to another player in order to get those two outs. But he goes around the diamond naming all these players, and then when he gets to the catcher, he'll say in the squat signs. And that's just, it's a thing. It's like a vocal.
I don't think I caught that.
Yeah. It's really weird. It is a very like those broadcasters only thing, but he does it every single time. He says the catcher, because the catcher squats in a position and puts down signs. It's just like it's one of those things where you hang on to it. It's yeah, I don't know what the word is for that, but it just reminds me of Giants baseball all the time. And it's curious that you didn't necessarily catch that. But going back, you probably would. He said it twice. He did it for both the Giants team and for the Reds. All right. Well, speaking of holding this baseball, you actually put into our document a couple of rookie questions. We've got a segment of rookie questions here of terms that you heard, I guess, in passing or during one of these broadcasts that you had questions about.
Yeah, this was mostly from the one that I listened to, but you know, same kind of thing. You know, I guess there's things that I've heard, but I've never really known what they meant or what they were. You know, so the first one is breaking ball. I feel like I don't know. You know, I know fastball, curveball, knuckleball, and all that, but I feel like breaking ball is new to me, which I don't think it actually is new to me, but it is new to me.
It's not going to be, well, it's not new to you because you mentioned one already. You said curveball, right? So if you think of a breaking ball, and this can mean a lot of different things depending on who is actually calling the game, or who's pitching. It really depends. But a breaking ball is going to be any like breaking pitch where the pitcher is like snapping their wrist to give the ball spin and movement. So like this would include things like a curveball, a slider. You may have heard a slider before. Changeup is not one, though, I guess, which is really interesting. So like a breaking ball is one that probably stays a little bit faster when you're looking at sort of like a pitch speed spectrum. Likely curveballs and sliders are going to be between, I don't know, like 74 miles an hour and 86 maximum, 85. So you'll see him sort of in between there, speed-wise. But a changeup is typically a lot slower, and a fastball is typically a lot faster. And those don't break; they just kind of have different movement to them. And you'll actually hear folks talk about movement a lot in a pitch, and that is usually for breaking balls. Right.
And this came from not just hearing, you know, the announcements of the pitches, but also the broadcasters talking about certain players and how they need to, you know, learn how to better handle breaking balls and stuff like that.
Right. It's ones where like what you'll hear some people talk about, like the arm slot, and where that's basically where the ball comes out of the pitcher's hands and then starts traveling towards home plate for the batter to hit it. It's hard to see some of these pitches because they spin a different way. So as the pitcher is sort of like snapping their wrist to make the ball spin a certain way, there are pitches that you can't really like see that spin happening in the ball. And so it looks like, based on the arm slot where the pitcher is throwing it, that it's going to be a fastball. And so your brain then, right when that starts happening, is making all these calculations. And when you go to actually put your bat through the strike zone to make contact with the ball, you are probably swinging a lot faster than you would and a lot earlier than you would, because you think that the ball is going to, be in a certain spot or becoming a lot faster than it is. The difference would be between like a 74 mile an hour curveball and a 94 mile an hour fastball. Those 20 mile per hour differences are, milliseconds in the grand scheme of things. But on timing, when you're going to try and hit that, it's really, really difficult to make contact at the right time to actually hit the ball. So usually with, balls like that, you're fouling them off a lot with a breaking ball. So like what they're saying is like trying to see the pitch, and you're sort of guessing. As a batter, you're like, okay, last one was a fastball. This one, probably a breaking ball. They have a little bit of wiggle room here to try to get me to chase a pitch. You'll hear also people saying chase a pitch. There's just so many words in baseball. I had
it's its own language in a lot of ways.
It really is its own language. Yeah, I had someone in the Discord sort of call me out on my quote last time. Nick, there are just so many words.
Yeah,
as it's attributed to me. Yes, it's true. There are a lot of words in baseball. Yeah, a lot of rules, a lot of everything else. But yeah, that's breaking balls, and yeah. I think that it's something that you'll hear a lot of. It's really difficult for any batter, whether they're a veteran or a rookie, to get a handle of certain breaking balls from pitchers. It's just a really hard. They can be really hard pitches to hit.
Yeah. And you talk about, being able to see the pitch and whatever. And that's one thing that I'm still struggling with, is like, I can watch the pitch, I can see where it ends up and sort of figure out if it's going to be a ball or a strike, but I can't tell what kind of pitch it was. That's just kind of beyond me still.
You can kind of also tell as it's coming out of the pitcher's arm where maybe it might be. I think the one that will throw you off the most is the changeup, because the arm speed on the changeup is almost the same as a fastball, but it depends on how they hold the ball, and so the ball actually moves a lot slower, and so it looks like they're about to throw it into the stands, and then somehow it just like floats in there, and it's a strike. It's really wild to watch.
Yeah. And then talking about, more pitches, one was they would call, they would say like 3-2 curveball or something like that. And I don't know what those numbers mean. That was one thing I'm like, I'm used to numbers in the sense of the count of balls and strikes, but obviously that's not related to the pitches that they're throwing.
It may be. It depends on the context of this, for sure. It could actually be, depending on what they were talking about, it could have been something to do with how they are holding it, or where they hold it on the baseball in terms of like the stitches. Because you'll hear sometimes folks talk about like a 2-finger split or a 4,
Boy, that is just more detail than I would ever need.
Yeah, it really depends on what the context of this was. I would guess, actually, that it was probably about the count. So, like 3 balls, 2 strikes, meaning full. You'll hear full count a lot as well.
Right. Well, I was reading a little bit, too, and there is like a 12-6 curveball, which the 12 and 6 are related to like clock positions.
That's okay. That makes a lot more sense. Now, see, you're schooling me a bit. A 3-2 curveball, though, I don't think you would be able to do that. A 12-6 makes sense because you're going from like top to bottom.
Right.
But that's really interesting. Yeah, the curveball especially is one of those where I have a really hard time identifying it in a TV broadcast. It's just not one that I'm really able to notice that well. Even like a splitter or things like that. It's like no way. There's no way I'm gonna be able to recognize those. Now, one of the things that you will those start to catch, you'll sometimes see like in the count, it will be 2 balls and 1 strike, and so the pitcher at that point, if the maximum is going to be 4 balls and 3 strikes, obviously you're trying to get the 3 strikes, but there's only 1 ball and there are 2 strikes. So the next pitch potentially that the pitcher throws could get this batter out, and that's what they want. Mm-hmm. But as the pitcher, you'll sometimes see in that count specifically the catcher stand like slightly on, like they're in almost a sitting position, less a squat, squat, and more like a sitting position. And that is typically calling for the high fastball. And there's a lot about the high fastball and probably the strategy of the high fastball. But what the pitcher is betting on at that point is that based on those 2 strikes, depending on what kind of strikes they were, if they were swinging strikes especially, the batter seems a little overzealous. They're ready to I'm ready for the fence. I'm trying to swing for the fences, right?
Right.
And so by setting up, as it's called, up in the zone, the pitcher will throw it out of the strike zone, actually, up kind of near the letters of the actual batter's jersey, or even a little bit higher, sometimes like up in like chin area, and the batter won't really know that it's set up there, but the pitch just looks so juicy and fat, like, okay, here it comes. Like that is like right in my wheelhouse, and it just zooms right past their eyes and they swing straight through it. And strategically, that is typically a way that pitchers will get a batter out who is just like really, they'll swing at anything at that point. And I saw that really a bunch of times in the broadcast between the Giants and the Reds, because it's, people are just trying to like, I've got nothing to lose. I'm just going to keep swinging as much as I possibly can. But yeah, that's one especially I think is that you should start watching for, is setting up in one of those counts where it's like 1 and 2 or 0 and 2, and they have some room to play with.
Interesting.
I also kind of mentioned the inside outside or up in the zone. Are those? That's one of the questions that you've got on here. Is that kind of what you were getting at?
I think so. Yeah, they'd say like high to the outside or something like that. I'm trying to remember exactly what they'd say, but inside, outside. That's just the strike zone and not the strike zone, basically?
No. So usually when you're listening to a radio broadcast, it's going to be saying whether or not it is towards the player on that side of the strike zone or on the outside of the player on the strike zone. Inside is going to be like in between the plate and the player batting, and then outside is going to be usually on the opposite side of the plate in sort of like where the other side of the what's that called? Like where the other person would hit had they been, on that side of the plate. Batter's box. That's the word I'm looking for. Batter's box.
And then I put the count on here.
Yeah. Okay. That's one baseball. Two.
1 strike.
One.
4 balls.
That's right. Take your base.
A walk. No, that's because I had to relearn that. Like, I had to relearn that because they don't necessarily every time say, 2 balls, 1 strike. They just say the count 2 and 1. And so I had to learn that it's balls and strikes. Balls come before strikes.
Yes, that is something that even now, having heard it many, 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 many times, it's one of those things that I still kind of, I have to cognitively.
It's like every once in a while you're like, wait a minute, okay, right.
That's exactly how long it takes.
Yeah.
Too. It's like I just remember long enough. Oh yeah. That's what that is. Okay, got it.
You're like, is that?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Yeah. Well, even seeing it on TV, that's the other place where you'll see it a lot. It'll just be like 3-2.
Yeah, on their little graphics, they try to keep them small. So they just say, 3-1 or something.
Or sometimes they won't even show the numbers. It'll be like little dots on there. It depends on the broadcast you're watching and where you are in the world.
I
obviously.
reject that.
But yeah.
Take that one back to the drawing board.
Well, it depends, right? Because sometimes there will be only 2 dots on there, like a space for 2 dots, and that means 2 outs. The third out never gets put on there, but you'll see either 0 outs, 1 out, or 2 outs.
See, that bothers me too, because technically there is a third out, even though it doesn't like last and the inning turns over, but still, like, put it on there.
Yeah. No, I get it. I totally get it.
Quit cutting corners.
It has changed a lot over the last 20 years, I would say, with the advent of like all these new digital displays and widescreen, especially, I think was one of those
widescreen.
One of those really. I mean, you and I had a long conversation about like flat CRTs off the mic.
We did
the last episode, and it's part of that sort of like HD widescreen revolution that has turned a lot of these little sports score things into little bits that sit on the left-hand side at the top, or
it's like a dashboard.
It is like it's a HUD for baseball, basically. But what's different from baseball is that it's in a completely different spot than football, or I would say even basketball. Like basketball usually sits at the bottom, football usually sits at the bottom. Baseball is typically top left corner a lot of times. Yeah. And what they're trying to do is just basically get it out of the way. Like keep as much of the sport on there as you possibly can.
Right. I guess it's because if you're thinking about, well, it's interesting because in football and basketball too, you'd think that there would be action happening at the bottom of the screen that you'd possibly be covering up, but maybe that's less of a concern. I don't know. Yeah. I'm wondering if there's some strategy behind that or if that's just where it ended up because it looked nice.
I would say a lot of baseball is ground balls and
that's what I'm thinking,
of players. It's and the perspective is often from the top down. Mm-hmm. You are sort of like looking. You're not. Well, I guess a lot of sports are, honestly, but the arch of a football throw and the arch of a basketball shot both are up things,
right? Versus.
Whereas, exactly. Baseball is sort of like on the ground, lots of ground hits. Same thing with hockey. Hockey and baseball, I think, they share sort of the same broadcast HUD as each other. So it's kind of a really interesting and different way of looking at these things. But I think just verbally, the language of baseball ends up being different from team to team, depending and person to person, depending on what they're going to say about what the kind of pitch was. Is it a breaking ball or is it a curved ball? You'll kind of learn from that broadcaster what pitch that actually was based on the word they choose to describe it with. And the things like the count, right? Sometimes they'll say 1 ball, 2 strikes, verbatim, but sometimes they'll just say 3-2 count and the pitch.
Right. And it's it depends, depends too on what's happening and if they have time to say 1 ball, 2 strikes, or if they have to say 1 and 2 and and then there's like a something else going on that they have to
and the 2-2 pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just more about, I think, motor memory, muscle memory of hearing the same thing over and over again and knowing kind of what that means. And also, you don't really need to hear everything. I found myself actually, while these spring training games were going on, and maybe it's because they don't count, but I found myself just kind of like, I'll catch like 2 outs maybe, and then I'll go do something. I'll like go wash dishes, or I'll, go feed the cat, or I'll do something else. But I won't like just sit there and try and soak in every word and every pitch.
Right. Like a picture from the 1930s where you're sitting in an armchair next to the radio, like just listening.
Yeah. Yes.
Like, what's going to happen next?
I mean, there are times where I'm absolutely like that.
Yeah.
When it comes to the World Series or playoff baseball, I'm right there. I am just hanging on every word. I am most definitely there. But this early in the season, especially when it gets past the fourth inning or so, you're going to start seeing players that you've never heard of. There was a player today in a broadcast, Kyle Garlick was his name, and I could not get over it. Just Garlick. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
It definitely felt like boy, are you trying to tell me something, radio broadcast? Like,
yeah.
Should I not have had the lunch I had? I get it.
Followed up by Kenny Shallot and Joey Onion.
Got a full salad there in the outfield.
We got all the members of the Onion family here today.
But I'm really excited. So far, at least what I've heard of baseball, it's pretty exciting. There have also been some, we spoke briefly about sort of the terrible news that the Giants are dealing with currently, but the Giants were actually in the news recently as well for not signing Bryce Harper.
Yeah. So that's a whole thing that's been happening sort of in the background of our past couple episodes, and it finally came to some sort of resolution.
And I was kind of reluctant to even touch on it because it gets into parts of baseball that I feel are still fraught with confusion and like a misunderstanding of what baseball is, I guess, as a sport, and more what baseball is as a business. Yeah. And while it is entertainment, players shuffle all over all the time. Your loyalty as a Reds fan is not typically impacted by the move the organization makes to bring in another player or sell a player or trade them or whatever. This specific instance was there was a player on the Washington Nationals who was basically rookie of the year, right? Just an incredible ball player for years and years, and was recently up for something called free agency, which basically means that they are outside of a contract with that team now. Mm-hmm. They could, if they wanted to, re-sign with that team. But this is the opportunity for them to sort of play the field a little bit, if you would. If play the field business-wise. Go out and decide what team they want to play for how long. Maybe they sign a 1-year contract that's worth however much. But typically what comes out of free agency is long-term contracts and I guess like a new franchise player a lot of times. With a player especially like Bryce Harper, the one that we're talking about specifically here, it was a big question mark. And there were rumors all over the place about what kind of thing was going to happen. The Giants were in contention, if you would, going out to Vegas, meeting privately, trying to say like, hey, yeah, we'll do whatever, $319 million for 12 years. And what ended up happening was he ended up signing a even bigger deal with the Philadelphia Phillies. And as a part of this whole thing now, the 13-year contract, there's a bunch of stipulations, obviously, in these contracts as well, where it's either performance-based or there is a trade clause where after 4 years, if you get traded, your contract can go to that other team, things like that. Every single player is different. Every single player has a different contract, but I believe it's all backed up by the Baseball Association and the Players Union and things like that. All obviously above board, hopefully. But Bryce Harper ended up basically getting the biggest baseball contract the world has ever seen. Mm-hmm. And I just want your gut reaction. The numbers being thrown out are also gargantuan. And
yeah, it's a unimaginable sum of money.
Yeah. We should say 350 million. Is that unimaginable sum? There's an actual value for it.
There is a value of it. But it's
does that put you off at all to the prospect of long-term commitment to baseball, or does that make you feel like boy,
I don't know that it puts me off, but it's definitely something that I don't plan to care that much about. I don't know. It's not something I want to think about, I guess. Like, I don't know. I'm not.
You just don't want to focus, I guess, on that being a part of. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I guess I would rather ignore that they get paid millions and millions of dollars because, yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm reading here the average per game that he'll get paid is about $156,000. Actually, a little more than that. So
it's a lot.
It is a lot
of money.
Yeah.
Just for your entertainment.
Right. So, yeah. 13-year contract too. That's a really long time well.
That's like a hockey level contract.
Yeah.
Honestly, like folks in hockey will play for 25 years and just completely thrash their bodies. Baseball is a game of repetition and the same thing happening over and over and over and over again. And that puts your body through the ringer for sure. I just can't. I mean, he's obviously still a very young guy. It's just that 13 years committed to one team. You build a franchise around that for sure. You're going to sell jerseys. You're going to sell out probably for the first at least 2 years until the Phillies farm system, populates somebody up in there to, bring in some good players so that you can win a championship or at least get to the playoffs in one of those years. There are going to be opportunities, I think, for the Phillies between now and when that contract is over for them to be a real contender in playoff baseball. But I don't know enough about that team to know whether it's going to be something that happens near term or 5 years from now or 10 years from now or what. The interesting part, though, is that especially framed as like, okay, the Giants lost out on this contract. Bryce Harper could have gone to the Giants. Fine. But the articles that get written after that are typically about, well, okay, Phillies, not that bad. This amazing player is going to play not in your direct division, but they will play in your league. And so you'll have a couple of games here and there with them, but you won't have to battle them for a 4-game series or whatever in April because they aren't playing on your part of the country. Had, let's say, a team like the Dodgers picked up Bryce Harper, the Giants would play them maybe 6 to 8 times throughout the entire year, and multiply that by 3 to 4 games, depending on how many games are in that series, and that's a good like 20% of your season playing against this team, and that's a lot. That can really, really change the course of a team's success if that really, really good player ends up as on a team that's in your division. So I guess in that way, it's better that it turned out that way rather than going to the Dodgers or any other team that was in the Giants division. Mm-hmm. But I believe it does put him in your division.
Great.
But I would have to actually, I'd have to look at that to see how that gets sliced up. A division is typically in baseball. A division is usually 4 to 5 teams, depending on or I guess 6 teams as well.
That is not my division.
Got it. Okay, that's good. I mean, you're all right. You're square then.
Yeah, we're in the Central National League Central, believe it or not.
I should know that. My geography is pretty bad.
Well, whatever. I mean, I didn't know that before this moment. So
yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things that I also don't pay attention to much, mainly because the schedule is different every single year. I think that's something that maybe I haven't mentioned before, but usually opening day, at least over the last however many years, the Reds open up opening day, and they're the team that just kind of kicks everything off. Over the last 3 or 4 years, it's been different every year, and
which
the Twins,
me.
I think. Yeah, no, I get that. I absolutely get that. It's like
there was a reasoning behind the Reds being the first team, to play and having the first opening day, and that was that they were the first professional baseball team. And then they were like, I don't know, they just went away from that, and it's like, okay, I don't understand.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
like now, what we draw straws?
Pretty much. I mean, it is. Over the last couple of years, it's been like the Yankees kicking it off for some reason. I don't know why. America's team, I guess.
Right.
It's too bad. It feels like the one thing that is still kind of like okay about baseball history that hopefully is not, fraught with segregation and things like that. That is just like, oh yeah, this was the first MLB team. Let's honor that by just it being the first game that we play.
Yeah, fine. It was in Cincinnati, it was a big event. It would often be, almost like a civic holiday. There was a parade and all this stuff. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, it is very much done up like a parade as well. You'll see coming up to opening day, you will start seeing these like draped banners. I'm sure there's a name for it. I don't know the name off the top of my head, but they're red, white, and blue. They've got sort of this like very colonial vibe, I guess, to it. And that's what baseball does for opening day. And it is celebratory and like, just has all of his history just leaching from it. And I feel pretty bad for the Reds, but we'll see. I don't think that they're the first game again this year.
Well, lately that seemed like the only thing that we had. I don't know.
You were playing in these like throwback jerseys. During the Giants game.
Yeah, they have a special kit. I don't know if it's just for spring training or what, but it's in recognition of it being the 150th anniversary of the team this year. So everything was a little kind of classical in style. Very old English text looking C on the ball cap and all that. But this is also, it's like especially this year, it seems like opening day should be for the Reds because they're the oldest team in the sport and it's 150 years since they started. Seems like a occasion worth commemorating, but
Andrew, I'm here to disappoint as I usually am, and to write you and say that the MLB has announced the 2019 regular season schedule will feature the Mariners and the Athletics playing opening day in Tokyo, Japan.
That doesn't make any sense.
I'm wondering if it's more of like an international dateline thing where it's like, no, it's the next day anyway. It's fine. They're in the future. It's good. They are going to the Tokyo Dome, though, in Tokyo, and that is the only Japanese ballpark I have ever been to. So that's kind of cool. It's pretty big, actually. Surprisingly big.
I see that. It says it has a capacity of almost 60,000 folks.
Yeah. Well, and it's known as the Big Egg. which is pretty cool. It looks like an egg from pretty far away.
That's cool.
But March 20 and 21st, boy, this will be interesting. This will be really, really interesting because the Mariners are definitely one of those teams that draws a crowd, especially in Japan. And this is a really good opportunity, I think, to bring over more fans from the Japanese league to Major League Baseball. But beyond that, I have seen them play other games. I actually watched a movie recently that I'm going to have to add to our movie list. The Catcher Was a Spy was one with Paul Rudd, and he was a Jewish baseball player who played in Japan on the U.S. team prior to World War II, and then went on to try to assassinate Heisenberg, the German scientist who was supposedly creating nuclear weapons. Not a great movie, but I believe an interesting biography, and obviously based on a true story.
Well, we didn't ask for people to send us good baseball movies. Maybe we should have specified.
Fair. I watched this on the plane ride home, though, yesterday, actually. And it was pretty good. It was pretty good. Yeah, well, I'm going to catch this either way. The problem with watching baseball in Japan, though, especially for you, is that this is going to be like 2 a.m. when this shows up.
Yeah, I just don't even think that's practical.
there's going to be no way that you're going to be able to watch this. I'm going to actually look for the game time for this game. And it'll be the earliest day ever when the MLB opens this season. That's really interesting.
Well, I can tell you that one thing that I plan to do here shortly is purchase a hat, a baseball cap.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I found I'm on the website for the Reds, and they have fitted caps and all that, but I don't know my size, so I was just going to get a flex one. But it's also interesting that they specify whether it's a curved bill or a flat bill at this point. Because I'm not the person I want the hat to work, so yeah. I'm not going to leave the sticker on there. That just seems silly.
Fair. Yep. It actually works to repel the sun. It just reflects it fully.
Oh, okay.
You keep the sticker on there, rather than absorbing it.
Turns out.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy.
I see they've got some white and green ones for St. Patrick's Day. That's very odd.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely a thing. You may be able to now see. This is more my speed with the C with the word Reds inside it. That is sort of like the mid 90s, early 90s look for the Reds.
Yeah, I'm looking for that. I don't see it.
I
was just going to get the plain old C, but
yeah,
I feel like I saw that before. There's one with Mr. Redleg on it. That looks a little terrifying. We'll gloss over that one.
65% off of, I guess, hats right now for some of these. The Cactus League, the Cactus League ones look actually pretty good. This is the segment of the show where you shop online with Kyle and Andrew.
Yeah.
Okay. You could do the mesh. Yeah, that's a bad look.
Oh, I think I see which. Are you talking about the Cooperstown franchise fitted hat? The one that has the C and then it has Cincinnati Reds, in the C with the mascot?
Let me see if I can find an actual example of it. Because you could also get like the baseball guy with the mustache.
Right. Yeah, Mr. Well, that's, yeah. If it's the mustache, that's Mr. Red Leg. If there's no mustache, it's Mr. Red. They have 4 mascots.
You're going to have to break that down for me because that is baseball mascots probably need their own episode. I don't know a whole lot about the history of mascots in general, but I do know that the Giants mascot is sort of like rooted in the original history of the team that was there at the time prior to them moving from New York. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely interesting to me, but having multiple mascots just seems ridiculous. That's unbelievable. Okay, so I did find it. It's got sort of
Oh yeah. Yeah. That was definitely you're right that's the 90s style.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, I'm interested in getting one of the ones that says 150th anniversary, but they're more expensive. And also if they have the stylized classic C, no one's going to recognize that and know what that is. So.
Right. Yep. That's fair. I think the other thing you could do is do like an Ebbets flannel situation of like a 1945 Reds hat or something something where, let's see, I'm gonna pull up Ebbets flannel.
Yeah, I want a good hat. Let me get a good hat.
You got to get a hat that actually works. I think that's the other thing is like when you're out actually on the field or out watching a game, you do definitely want something that works. Otherwise, what's the point even? There is a Chicago Whales hat. But that's not anything.
Yeah, I don't think they have any of the officially licensed stuff.
Teams. No. They just have sort of like the city of San Francisco.
I'm now Googling genuine baseball hat. Isn't it New Era?
You could actually, if you wanted to, go the route of like go to your local gas station. But they probably won't have Reds memorabilia.
Yeah, I don't
like they would so. if you went all the way into town.
Right.
That's the one nice part, I will say, and this is the part of the show where I drop on Andrew that we're going to have to find another day to record next week because I'm going to be going to spring training. So I'll be in Arizona next Monday, at least driving back from Arizona. And I could probably pop in to the Reds location and just grab a hat, and then you'd pay double. You'd double in shipping, but
yeah,
that's how it works.
I don't know. I might measure my head and get a fitted cap. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. It's snug. I mean, it's.
Yeah, I don't know.
You could actually go to the problem with the fitted hats is that they don't sell them in like small, medium, large, middle large, extra large. They are 7 5/8.
Right.
Like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Am I 7.5 or 7 5/8? Like, which? It definitely matters too, because you don't want to get one that you just cut your hair and then you put on the fitted cap, and then 2 months later, when you haven't had a haircut in a while and you go to put the cap back on, it just doesn't fit. I do want to kind of unpack a bit about baseball memorabilia and caps in particular, because I think this is the point at which a lot of people bounce off of baseball and say, like, well, why for this sport do people want to wear the thing that people on the field wear?
Right.
Why do I want to do that? You're not going to go on the field. You're not going to play. Why bring your glove? What are you doing there? Is there any part of that you feel sort of like an awkwardness, or do you just not care at all?
Not really, though. I do think it's interesting to explore how, widely or prolific the baseball hat has become, that it's kind of the default hat for, like anything casual at this point.
It definitely is.
If you go to the store to get a hat, it's probably going to be a baseball hat.
The shape in particular, as it's changed over time. I mean, even looking at the Reds website, the one I sent you is more of like what I guess nowadays would be considered sort of a dad cap, if you would. And then you've got the fitted caps, which are typically going to be your like on the field style caps. And then you have the like flat build, it can be very, very stylish. But it's almost like this boxy bowler looking version of a baseball cap. It's very intriguing.
I guess I need just to find a lids near me or something.
I mean, this one in particular, I love the 1990 World Series champions look. That's a good cap.
1990.
Way way back when.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pick one up too when I'm out in spring training, but the conundrum for me is not typically fitted versus not fitted, because I don't know, I feel like my head shape changes all the time. I feel like an infant, where you're just sort of like in that phase.
Right. So it's not even on your radar to get a fitted one, because that would just be constraining yourself.
Well, or it would be like, putting a hat on a 2-month-old whose skull is actually half more malleable than the rest of it, and so you just end up sort of like in this slightly coneheads situation. Feeling like you're changing the structure of your own brain as you put the cap on. It always feels way too tight for me, I guess, is what it gets down to. So I'll go adjustable. Usually it's just.
By the way, I do want to point out that Lids has a category of hats called dad hats.
Yeah.
It's actually a thing. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I mean, is it though? Is it?
Evidently.
The camo ones in particular, I mean, you'll see the green and the camo and the like really bright red, the ones with the flag embroidery for the logo. You'll see those worn on the field sometimes as these like one-off hats for special occasions, things like Heritage Nights or Veterans Day, you know, things like that. And I typically don't go for those often. If I'm, I'll buy something. I want to be able to wear it to multiple games. I don't want it to feel like it is only from one particular game. It's a different look for sure, because when you go around the league and you watch these different games, you'll see, oh, okay, the Giants hat's kind of like the Reds hat, which is kind of like the Dodgers hat, which is kind of like the Yankees hat, which is kind of like the Marlins hat. You know, it's all, everybody sort of looks the same. And it's kind of cool, I guess, in that way, but does not really embody a lot of the team's own colors or branding or anything like that. What gets me though are there are these ones. There's this Cooperstown one, this wool hat, that the logo itself is not the actual San Francisco Giants logo. I'm going to copy this image address. All right, take a look at that. Huh. You notice anything kind of awkward about how that looks?
Yeah.
Now
it's like just
copy image address.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you. I want to send you this one.
Interesting.
It's like you opened up a wormhole to an alternate universe where the designer got different feedback on the logo.
Yeah.
And you've got this like sort of bizarro wearing a mustache version of the San Francisco Giants logo.
Yeah.
And the colors are a tiny bit different.
Yeah.
I mean, even just toggling between the two of those, it's super weird.
I know. Yeah.
One kind of feels like my design skills in college, and one kind of feels like my design skills now.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
It's really kind of weirdly
one's the sketch you draw out, the other one's the finished product.
Is the finished That's it. That's 100% it.
Yeah.
All right, so we got to get you to the actual checkout here for this hat then. Because I do want you to.
Oh boy, you want me to buy now? Oh dear.
Well, you got to be juiced up for the season, right? You got to every time. I see what I expect is every time you're watching a game, you are just like done up. You got the finger, you've got the like foam finger,
right? Exactly. Sitting on my couch at home, just covered in peanut shells and.
Yep.
I have a plastic cup of beer.
Yep. It did cost $14, unfortunately,
right.
But yeah. Yep. Well, like I said, I'm going to a spring training game this weekend. That's going to probably be my follow-up next week, because this is going to be the first game that I will see in person in almost 2 years. It'll be the first time that I've been to spring training in, I think, 3 years, if not 4. And it's going to be... surprisingly, the actually getting the tickets wasn't that hard. They still had a bunch of tickets available. Surprisingly, though, the tickets themselves are $35 for lawn seats. And, of course, I bought 2. So I am really not looking forward to paying a whole lot more for my baseball experience, more than I already have. But that doesn't seem like it's going to be the case. I'm going to be paying out the nose for this, for sure. It's just how baseball goes, Gotta pay that Bryce Harper salary.
Right. Somebody's got to.
Somebody's got to pay it. May as well be Giants fans. Why not?
Yeah. Well, you know what time it is now?
It is time. A very exciting time. I got to know what did we call this last time? Like the
Team of the Week.
Team of the Week. That's right.
Team of the Week.
We need maybe like a segment bumper here, a stinger. Team of the Week.
This week's Team of the Week, I'm sending it to you now because it is so good. This is when I found myself, we have gotten some suggestions, but this one was too good to pass up. This is the New Orleans Baby Cakes.
That was a very interesting way to put the emphasis on the last name.
New Orleans Baby Cakes. The New Orleans Baby Cakes.
Yeah, okay. I feel like that one is maybe a little bit more representative of the logo that they've got,
the
rather
New
than
Orleans,
like the baby cakes.
The baby cakes. No, yeah. Yeah. Why don't you give a shot at describing this logo?
If you went to Big Dogs and wanted to buy a T-shirt with a baby on it, who looked like both they were playing football and was poking their head out of a ball pit at McDonald's. That is, well, no, not McDonald's, because they've got a crown. So like Burger King to me. It's a baby in a ball pit at Burger King is what this is.
Yeah.
But the New Orleans part of it, it's definitely got like the New Orleans colors,
right.
New Orleans vibe.
So they used to be the New Orleans Zephyrs, but they rebranded in 2017. There was a team name contest. Finalists were Baby Cakes, Crawfish, King Cakes, Night Owls, Po' Boys, Red Eyes, and Tailgaters. Gators as in alligators. And they, of all those suggestions, they chose Baby Cakes. So that's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
I am searching for an explanation of the name on the Wikipedia page here, and to be honest, I am not finding one.
I'm going to take a stab at it.
Okay.
And guess that maybe there is, like, is this where Cake Boss is from?
Oh, yeah, I think so. You know?
Okay. There's like a Charm City Cakes like situation happening where there's like a well-known cake person in New Orleans that maybe not known as Baby. Maybe Baby Cakes is like, it just sounds so derogatory and like, hey, Baby Cakes.
Yeah.
That's all I hear.
Yeah, I don't know. In any case, apparently New Orleans will not have to deal with this for that much longer because the New Orleans Baby Cakes will be moving to Wichita as early as 2020. So,
and becoming I guess probably not Wichita Baby Cakes.
Yeah, I don't know if they want to preserve that. Maybe this is like a Browns thing where New Orleans retains the Baby Cakes name and all of the uniforms. Not that they'd want to. But yeah, so I just suggest that you go and look at this logo because it's
really interesting.
Frankly, it's bizarre.
It's real mean. I mean, if you're gonna buy a hat,
it's I mean this baby, he has a purple bat, but it doesn't even look like a bat. It looks like a billy club more than a bat.
Yeah, true. I was looking more at just like the face itself.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's mean, and he's got like little under eye things like a football player.
Yes, yeah. That's the thing. It reads more like football than it does baseball.
Maybe the designer
wear eye black.
Yeah, maybe the designer didn't get the memo.
Yeah, but the one with the actual, like, they're holding the bat, it's got this.
Well, but that's what I said. It's a billy club, so
yes,
not necessarily a bat.
But it also has this sort of like genie from Aladdin look.
Does a little bit, yeah. It's very. I don't know. This is
like a worm, maybe.
Profoundly.
It is definitely perplexing.
I would like to suggest, apparently the city of New Orleans is hoping to get a new AA team after the Baby Cakes leave. I would like to suggest that the new team just be called the New Orleans Beignets. And then I think their mascot should be an anthropomorphic beignet. And then you can, instead of at the end of the game,
pillow with eyeballs.
Right. And at the end of the game, instead of like pouring Gatorade over him, you can just pour powdered sugar.
Ooh,
Doesn't, I mean, that's a way better idea, to be honest.
Like shakes off. Yeah. I'm thinking like a shrimp.
Anyway.
I think a shrimp would be good, like an anthropomorphic shrimp.
Well, yeah, that was one of the things with the crawfish. Like, that would have been fun. Yeah. Or, something to do with gators.
Yep. Tail Gators is good.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good pun. See, that's the thing. A lot of these names of the teams of the week that we'll be getting to are like good puns.
So I think I found it in here. Unique promotion to promote the name. Any child born in the state of Louisiana was eligible for a lifetime pass to Baby Cakes games. It would be entered into a raffle. The winner would receive full 4-year tuition to a state college in Louisiana upon their 18th birthday in 2035. What is happening with this?
So if you were born in the state of Louisiana during 2017, you received a lifetime pass to Baby Cakes games, which you will not be able to redeem because they will be moving in 2020. I hope someone won that raffle for the 4-year tuition to a state college in Louisiana, though, because, I mean, that's worthwhile.
Yeah, same.
I mean, talk about gimmicks. I mean, we have plans to talk about, like, minor league game gimmicks to get you to show up to minor league games, but like that's a heck of a gimmick.
They say the lifetime pass enrollment has ended, reportedly. We thank everyone who participated and welcome all the newest members of Baby Cake Nation. If you have questions, please contact babies@cakesbaseball.com.
Oh my goodness.
Everything
changed when the Baby Cake Nation attacked.
Their mascot is like this bear-looking beaver thing.
I see that. It's not clear.
With red teeth, and it says cakes on it. I'm so confused.
Me too.
They are the AAA affiliate for your Miami Marlins, but whoa.
Boy, that's something, isn't it?
I think I'm missing like a cultural nugget here.
Yeah, where's the about?
Understanding?
Where's your about page on this website?
It is something else.
Explain this to me.
I can't get out of here. I'm trying to go to Baby Cake Nation and I just can't. Team.
That's how they get you.
They get me stuck in here, I guess. Mm-hmm. The entire nav bar has been replaced with an ad now.
Oh, lovely.
How did Now I'm being served ads for MLBshop.com with Reds hats. Oh, great. All right, full circle.
Oh, dear.
I think that's going to do it for us for this episode. Again, if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can do so if you've got either questions for our rookie question segment or you've got, I don't know, you found...
Literally anything else. Ads for Reds hats. An explanation of Baby Cake's naming.
I need some feedback on that.
Yeah.
I need something. Or if you've got a topic.
I'd love to get the transcripts of the meeting or something. Like someone drop us some confidential info.
I think just
give us the docs.
There is a Shutterstock ad here. This website is just full of ads now. The Shutterstock ad with a baby on it, and also an ultrasound of a baby. So there definitely is some sort of like there's some marketing
weird cross-targeting happening.
Yeah. Maybe if I just say baby one more time. No, not happening. Not happening. But you can send in those suggestions and little nuggets of info over to topics@baseline.show. You can also follow us on Twitter. Now I have the same ad twice on here. You can follow us on Twitter. We are baseline_show, I believe.
Yes, that's correct.
And we will post when new episodes are up. We may need to actually, thinking back on it now, we may have to just both get a jersey or at least like a t-shirt. But instead of putting our names on there, we put Baseline on the top. Sort of like arched across the top with the number 1 on it. Just sort of, like commemorative for this first season.
It's good.
That's really good. That's what your hard-earned money will go to if you go to patreon.com/goodstuff. And you'll know that I guess you're physically and literally clothing both Andrew and I.
Thanks for listening. This has been Baseline, and that's the ball game.
Any rebroadcast, retransmission, or account of this game without the express written consent of Goodstuff.fm is prohibited.